Jay, that's strangely close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
And the crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
David Montgomery and the Lions, former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the only football podcast tonight. We are down to 3 more games in the NFL, and we're going to pick the next 2 on Championship Sunday between the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Lions and the 49ers. So stay tuned while Kyle and I pick those games. Then we're going to do our top five. We're going to rank the 4 remaining teams in the playoffs. And we're going to talk a little bit about the coaching carousel that is the offseason if the teams are not in the playoffs. And of course, we're going to end it off with the little chives with Kyle. Let's get it. America is football. Football is
America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass. For the moment in time, I don't give a damn. Oh my god!
No!
You love this.
30 to 27.
No!
Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30 to 20. Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. It has come to a place where there are 4 remaining teams and only 2 will advance to the big game. That's the Super Bowl. I'm Kyle and that's Rick.
I'm like, that's Kyle.
And we got, let's see, 1 quarterback in the 49ers. He's never been to a Super Bowl. Lamar's never been to a Super Bowl. And then, Goff's never, no, he's been. So we got 2 quarterbacks that have been to a Super Bowl, 1 that's won and 2 that have never been. We're going to break it all down. But first, I got to show you guys something. All right. Notice anything different in the background?
I see the dildo kind of off there to the right.
That's not even mine. Whatever, dude. Do you see anything?
I see the foot. Has the football always been there?
This is my brother ordered this, right? This is a real NFL football. These are like almost $2. This thing, dude, smells like real leather. This is a real ass football. This is what they're playing with out there. Not the Patriots. It's not deflated, but this is what. And it's going to be a part of the podcast now. But
let's go.
That's not the only thing, Rick.
Oh, he's going to take his pants off. See
that?
What is that?
I installed a basketball hoop.
No way.
Right here. Here it is.
Oh, I see it.
And here's the ball. Now, I'm going to take a shot before we start. And if I make this, then all of my predictions will come true. If I miss it, then some might not come true. All right? Here we go.
Let's go. Some might not.
Oh,
yes, that means I win.
I thought you thought I made it, so I went with it. I was like, yeah. Oh, man. All right. Now that we got that out of the way, it is time to break down the first game that will be going down in the conference championship. That is Lamar Jackson taking on Kansas City. This game is going to be in Baltimore. The crowd's going to be going crazy. It's been a long time since they've been to a Super Bowl. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years. For the Chiefs, it's all business. And we know that they are capable of going in and beating this Ravens team. They have Patrick Mahomes. There's not much to say, but Mahomes did just come out and say there's a reason Lamar's going to win MVP. So it is not gone over Mahomes' head how good Lamar's been this season. Now, defensively, these are two great units. The Ravens may be a little bit better. The Ravens run the football better than any team in the NFL. Only the Bears rushed for more yards last season. So
let's go.
I think this is shaping up to be a really good game. And I'm going to let you take the floor on this one. And then I'll come back and I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Oh, God. Yeah, you're right. We actually might be on the opposite ends here. All right. Well, I'll start it off here. So I'm just going to start off with a couple quotes here. This is how you know. What is that?
I just shot you. I knew you were going to take the Ravens, so I shot
I'm from Chicago. You can't do that. You're going to kill me, dude.
Sorry, I forgot about
a heart attack.
God.
Oh, God, Kyle, you literally almost killed me. That was the end of the Only Football podcast. All right, I'm going to start off with two quotes here. Two quotes that I think really signify the respect that both of these guys have. You said it yourself to begin with, right? Lamar Jackson has never been to a Super Bowl. This is his first AFC Championship game. Mahomes, on the other end, has won 2, been to 3, and this is his 6th consecutive AFC Championship game. So, business. But these two quotes right here just kind of show you that no matter what happens between these two teams or what has happened between these two teams, these two quarterbacks, the respect is there. So I'm going to start off with Mahomes. He said of Lamar, he's going to be the MVP for a reason. He leads his team. He scores. He runs. He throws. He does whatever it takes to win. And that's what the greats do. It's a challenge for our defense, but also a great challenge for our offense to keep up. Those are great words from Mahomes. In his 6th, 7th year as a quarterback, already has more playoff wins than, I don't know, half the quarterbacks in the NFL in history. It's insane how great he is. So those are great words, and something that's coming from him, you take that and you're like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. All right, so of Lamar Jackson saying this about Mahomes, I don't like competing against him at all. He's definitely a Hall of Famer, but I believe it's just two greats, up-and-coming greats, just going toe-to-toe like a heavyweight fight. So the respect is definitely there between the two. The experience is obviously heavily favored towards the Chiefs, and the Ravens. They've not had great playoff success, and Lamar especially. But they got here after dismantling the Texans last week in the divisional game, in a game where we talked about rest versus rust. That didn't have any sort of effect. Maybe the first half on the offense and Lamar Jackson, maybe that was just a little bit like, oh shit, is the offense going to show up? Because we did talk about it. It was tied, right? So it took them about a half to really get back into that rhythm, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. But the defense was on point, man. The defense is on point. Ravens have the most rush yards per game this season at 160 yards per game. The defense for the Chiefs, on the other hand, gives up about 115. Now, that is just like when we talk about the Chiefs defense, rushing defense specifically, I mean, we're looking at them as if they're just going up against running backs. Lamar Jackson in this entire last season averaged, with his total yards over 17 games, averaged almost 50 yards rushing per game. Now, you may see that and you're like, well, that's not a lot. But when you see that he, rushed for over 800 yards in the season, you really do look at Mahomes' words, and he can run, he can pass, he'll paint your car, and he'll do your taxes, and he'll fucking, you know what I mean?
And he can pass.
And he can pass. So he really can do it all. So what you have to factor that into what the Chiefs defense has to do to kind of keep Lamar and really the Ravens at bay. Now, on the Ravens side, or on the Chiefs side, rushing, you got Isaiah Pacheco. He has 186 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns in 2 postseason games against the Dolphins, and then last week against the Bills, who are one of the better defenses too in the league, right? And they were able to beat them. It was close. And Isaiah Pacheco wasn't like the main star of the game by any means, but I mean, 186 yards in 2 postseason games, that's a damn good running back right there. And when we couple that with a damn good defense with the Chiefs, and you see Mahomes and how the offense has struggled, you're like, oh man, this matchup is just going to be so damn good, dude. But let's talk a little bit about the Ravens now too. The Ravens throughout the season, and you heard it here with Kyle and I, we saw their offense sometimes without Mark Andrews, and we're like, okay, I don't know. Like there's sometimes when he's not in there, when it looks rough, when it looks out of sync, when it looks like there really isn't a game plan going. It just looks like a rough time in general for the Ravens offense. The defense definitely makes up for it, but really the offense is really up there. 10 out of their 13 victories, Kyle, the Ravens, came against teams that finished above 500. They're just dominant, man. They are very dominant. They are beating good teams. You saw, again, the Texans last week. They're just so damn good. You put the defense on there. You put Lamar and what he's able to do. You got Likely, you got OBJ, you got a possible Mark Andrews return. Yeah, we'll see. He did miss a couple practices. Or no, I'm sorry. He did practice this week. So we might see what happens. But there's a lot of stuff on the Ravens side of the ball on the offense that you really do like to see, man. And while there's been a lot of, here, especially we talked a lot about how the offense sometimes looked like just like shit some games. I don't think there's any doubt on that Ravens side. And to be honest, there's no doubt on my side from this Ravens offense. I think this Ravens offense is going to have quite a bit of success against this Chiefs defense. It's one of the best ones in the league, the Chiefs. But I think they're going to have success. Now, the Chiefs and Ravens passing defenses, both are like right around the same spot. I think they give up 177 for the Chiefs, passing yards per game versus 191 for the Ravens. So they're like there, you know what I mean? Like they both give up a ton of yards. Yeah. And they're right around the same league, like you said. Now with just the passing offenses on both sides, the Chiefs have a 30-yard advantage. But when you take into account like the Ravens defense and what they do to get to the quarterback, put pressure, man, they're just so damn good too. When I look at this game for what it's worth at face value, I think we're really lucky to have this game as the AFC Championship game. And I know it tears you to pieces because you're like, these two teams, I just do not like whatsoever one bit. And you got to pick one, unfortunately. Right. And all of this to say, all of those stats to say this game might come down to who's the better kicker. Harrison Butker, who's 33 of 35 in the regular season, or Justin Tucker, one of the most accurate kickers in the league. I'm going Ravens. I am going Ravens to take the dub in the AFC Championship game, 27-23. The Chiefs defense had a lot to cover last week against the Bills, but they came up clutch. Yes, there was a missed field goal, and it really wasn't on them at all. They didn't block it or anything like that, but they had a real taste of a really difficult game for the Chiefs in the playoffs. And I think this defense on the Ravens side, Lamar Jackson playing out of his mind, I think the Ravens are going to take this one, man, 27-23. But here's the thing. If Mahomes wins this game and goes to another Super Bowl, I'm not going to be surprised. I am not going to be surprised one bit, because year after year after year, we do this to Mahomes and the Chiefs. And what do? They end up in 6 straight AFC championships, 3 Super Bowls, end up winning 2, former MVP. I wouldn't be surprised of that outcome, but I am taking the Ravens just because of how dominant they have been in their recent success. So I'm going Ravens 27-23.
All right, our next game is going to be
Yes, I pissed off Kyle. Let's go.
You're right. I don't like this. I don't like this game at all. And with that said, I'm going to grow up here.
Let's go.
I'm going to mature. I am not going to let my emotions control me.
We got balls dropping, everybody.
Yep, it is happening. I realize just a lot of where this hatred comes from is really just a product of me not growing. Like, I really need to move on from some of this stuff.
Yeah.
So you're right. Like, this is going to be a great game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And clearly the Chiefs were better than Buffalo. Whether the team is better, you could argue, but the coaching wasn't better. Josh Allen didn't make the decisions late in the game, and Patrick Mahomes did. And they fumbled that ball out of bounds, right? That was almost another touchdown. Like, that game could have pulled away for the Chiefs late in the game, but it didn't go that way. Like, in my opinion, Buffalo got the bounces they needed. They just didn't execute when it mattered the most. And why is that? Is it because Buffalo wasn't in a rhythm? No, it's not because of that. They were scoring every time they had the ball.
Yeah.
Is it Josh Allen's decision making? Maybe a little bit, but I think it comes down to experience. And I think this game's going to come down to experience as well. There is a lot of experience in the head coach, John Harbaugh. He's been here before. He's one of the great coaches. And look, Lamar beat the Texans, and that was a big win because that Texans team was really hot. But man, the lack of experience from the Texans made the Ravens look like they had a ton of experience in comparison. But now here comes Kansas City, a team that since Mahomes took over has been in every AFC Championship game. You can make a real argument that if there's one thing that we learned this season is that the Chiefs don't have to have a great regular season for them to flip the switch in the postseason. And I came out and said, like, there's not a magic switch that they're going to turn on. They would have done it, week 10 if it existed. And I was wrong about that because you're watching the Chiefs play in these last two games, and it appears that their offense figured everything out, right? They couldn't really get much going all season. They were lucky to get around 20 points per game, but their defense holding opponents to like 17.3, I think. That's the reason that Kansas City even got here. So when you look at how bad that offense was and what they're doing now, you have to at least accept the fact that Kansas City's flipped a switch, that you're not getting the regular season Chiefs. You're getting a different squad that is primed to win Super Bowls, not just go to Super Bowls. And they're going to come in and they're definitely going to give the Ravens their best shot. There are things about this game that concern me. For instance, I mentioned, and so did you, Lamar Jackson and his ability to run. I wrote down some stats here that I think are going to definitely sway people towards the Ravens. Only 4 NFL defenses allowed more yards per carry than the Chiefs. They allow 4.5 yards per carry. So that's been a problem with the Chiefs all season. Their rush defense, they stink. And Kansas City ranks 27th in rush defense and 28th in EPA per rush allowed. So with that said, that means that the Ravens are going to run and they're going to have success doing it. And we know that teams that can run the football, especially in January, are going to have more success than teams that are reliant on passing the football, especially on the road. Having a strong running game is going to be important, and the Ravens are going to have that. And that is why I'm taking Kansas City to win 38-35. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think the Kansas City defense is not going to have an answer for the Ravens offensively. I expect it to be very similar to the Chiefs Bills game last week, but instead, I think that when it comes down to the wire, I don't think Lamar's going to make those poor decisions. I think this game's going to go into overtime, and I rarely predict overtime. I don't think I've ever predicted overtime, but the last time they got to the Super Bowl, they had to go to overtime, and they had to actually go to double overtime to beat the Broncos. Now, that was the divisional round, but I think that there's going to be some kind of circulation here where this game ends up going into overtime. I think it's going to be insanely suspenseful. And the reason I'm taking the Chiefs is because I think that they're going to be able to respond to the Ravens. The Ravens have a great defense, but Patrick Mahomes is just he's different. Like we were talking yesterday about quantum mechanics, and it is kind of related because they're the way an atom behaves when you shoot it, when it's being monitored versus when you're not looking at it, it either behaves like waves or particles. But somehow when we look at an atom, it behaves differently. It's one of the things that nobody can explain. Patrick Mahomes, like, you can get all this stuff down on paper. You can have it all like, okay, the Ravens are probably going to dominate based on all these numbers. Patrick Mahomes is quantum mechanics. He is like, you can't measure it. We don't know why he has success. He just does. And I think looking at Patrick Mahomes going into this environment, I'm not too worried about it because he's going to have his family there. The box is going to be filled with Jason Kelce and Taylor Swift. And it really does feel like ever since they kind of got that suite, that they're kind of like, they enjoy being on the road. Like they're almost like a family, you know, and they're all traveling together. So I think the home field advantage, the crowd noise, it's going to be a factor, but Arrowhead, a very loud environment. And Patrick Mahomes plays in it. Like, he's on offense and they're quieter, but he's accustomed to being around loud noise. Like, he understands the problems that come with that. And I expect Andy Reid to do a lot different than we saw DeMeco Ryans. We saw literally, I don't know the number, it was probably 12 pre-snap penalties from the Texans.
It was a lot.
They absolutely were not ready for that game. So I understand the Ravens have beaten really good teams this whole season, but just looking at the playoffs, I'm not going to go, they dominated the Texans. So no, because the Chiefs won't make the same mistakes the Texans made. And if they didn't make those mistakes, they would have had a shot to play with the Ravens. But unfortunately, the inexperience was a glaring weakness on the Texans that whole game. Timeouts weren't used properly. There was injuries. I think Travis Kelce, who's coming off a 2-touchdown game, is going to have a couple probably again. Rashee Rice has really emerged in the postseason, and Pacheco can run the football really well. To me, this game is primed to go back and forth. And when it comes down to a coin toss, or because we know the overtime rules in the postseason, both teams are going to have a chance to possess the football. But who do you trust more? One drive, sudden death environment. It's got to be Mahomes. And
Tom
I'm sorry.
Brady. Mahomes. Yeah.
Well, Tom Brady if he was here. But and Tom Brady just spoke out about Mahomes the other day. He's like, you just can't count out Mahomes. That's what he said in this game. Like, and Tom Brady knows, that's one GOAT to another GOAT. This isn't like CJ Stroud and Lamar. This is a whole nother level. Like, these are the greatest quarterbacks ever. And it's not shade on Lamar or CJ Stroud. It's just they're not there yet. What Mahomes has achieved and what Tom's achieved, like, Tom knows what he's talking about. He's seen the look in Mahomes' eye. Like last year with the Patriots, they had to go into overtime. And Mahomes ended up losing that game, but that was the old rules where Tom scored. Mahomes never even touched the football. Nobody wanted to change the rules that year, but the next year when it happened, Josh Allen, they're like, we got to change the rules. Nobody wanted to change it that year. So all I'm saying is that I trust this Chiefs team. I hate this conversation, by the way.
I knew you would.
I trust this. I trust Andy Reid. I trust Patrick Mahomes, and I think that they're going to have the ball last, and they're going to have the last laugh. And I think it's going to be the Ravens ultimately walking off disappointing, which it's not. It's not the Ravens might feel like it was a waste of a season if that happens. It's not, because Lamar hasn't really had a fully healthy season in how long? The fact that he stayed healthy this whole year, I think this is a year that they can build off of moving forward. But I think Kansas City, and it just might work out this way where maybe the very first game of the NFL season, Thursday night, the game that the NFL opened up with is going to be the game that they closed with, Lions Chiefs potentially. And that would be really interesting. I don't know, you could fact check that. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. Absolutely full circle. And experience Andy Reid, Taylor Swift, I'll throw her in there. Because it's energy. Energy is real. You know what I mean? I don't like that they have to show her on the thing all the time, but you can't deny that the energy when they travel is captivating. It's and you just can't measure that kind of a thing. And when you're going into a hostile environment, it might be the difference in this game, having your own little section of energy. I know it sounds weird, but it's hard to explain. But I just think that the we talk so much about the Chiefs. Oh, they've never been on the road for a playoff game. I think it looks like Mahomes really is embracing it. I think based on Jason Kelsey in the last game, taking his shirt off and shotgunning a beer with Bills fans, like these guys are embracing it. They're having a good time. And I really do feel like this just might be, we all need variety in our life. And I feel like for the Chiefs, this is the variety they didn't ask for, but they're happy they're getting. I think they're going to travel well, and I think they're going to embrace the whole underdog on the road type deal, and they're going to win this game, and we're going to go, how the hell are the Chiefs in the Super Bowl on a down year? And it's because of number 15.
That's insane, man, because you said it, right? Like how they end up here, and it's just year after year, the doubt comes in at a certain point in the season for the Chiefs. But yeah, we look at the experience and we look at what they've done in their short period of time together, Mahomes and Andy Reid. But it does come out to experience and what they've done and how good they are, and just how in the moment they know exactly what they need to get out of each and every single guy to get to the next game, to get to the Super Bowl. Speaking of experience, though, we look at John Harbaugh on the other side of the sideline. There's a guy who's won a Super Bowl with a fucking dominating defense, and this was Joe Flacco. When Joe Flacco isn't this quarterback that we all look at, outside of this year, right? He's 100 years old this year, but when he won the Super Bowl, it was 2012. 2012, right? And Joe Flacco has an amazing arm. He throws an amazing spiral. If he got down on one knee, he could probably still throw the ball 75 yards downfield. Yeah. So, obviously John Harbaugh hasn't had much success since that Super Bowl. We look at the playoff games that he's had with Lamar, and they haven't been anywhere near as great. But the defense this year, and it's kind of something that the Ravens do just year after year, is they build these dominating defenses. You got Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, Marlon Humphreys, I think was practicing as well. You got a ton of guys there on that defense. And now he has a quarterback who was a former MVP, who is the favorite to win the MVP.
He will. It's done deal.
And he will, right? Like, how much does that factor kind of into this whole game? Like, because obviously Andy Reid and Mahomes have done it consistently for the last half plus decade. Right. So does that factor into this decision? Like, do you look at that and you're like, well, this team's a lot better than maybe the 2012 team that won the Super Bowl with John Harbaugh?
Yes, I look at it. I mean, essentially, you're saying Lamar's playing quarterback better than anybody in the NFL. It has to matter. It has to come in. But the difference is like Lamar Jackson's never played in an AFC Championship game.
True.
That is a glaring blank spot on the resume. And as easy as it is to go, it's no big deal. Like it's just one more football game. Like, and let's be real, Lamar hasn't shown any signs of regression up to this point. He hasn't. Mm-hmm. But it's like now we're going into a black hole. Now we're going into the unknown. And what is that going to be like? I mean, there's a lot. I could give you a lot of examples of a quarterback that played at a very high level, won MVPs, and then didn't look bad in the wild card or divisional round. And then the NFC Championship game didn't show up. His name's Aaron Rodgers, and it happened a lot. So it wouldn't be uncommon for the quarterback that wins MVP to shit the bed in the conference game. And Lamar's never been here. So I do think Lamar playing at a high level, I'm led to believe that he's not going to shit the bed. But like I said, that's the thing about the unknown. We just have to wait and see. Like he might look different. That's all I'm saying. Like you might watch this and be like, what is he doing? Like what happened? And I do think the Chiefs defense is better than the Texans defense by a lot of measures. Even though the Texans defense was underrated, in my opinion, for most of the season, this Chiefs team is rightly rated as a top 5 defense. So Lamar's going to have more challenges. I do think they're going to be able to do a lot in this game. I don't think the defense is going to shut him down. And that's why I'm predicting a high scoring game. But when the game continues, like the Josh Allen Chiefs game, you notice that game felt like Buffalo was going to win in the first quarter.
Yeah, it did.
Quarter, in the third quarter. But what happened in the fourth quarter? What happened in the fourth quarter? All of a sudden, things didn't look the same. And that's, in my opinion, that's just the inexperience of Josh Allen. He shouldn't have been throwing in the end zone. He should have been throwing to his check down. He should have been trying to get a first down. The clock management was shit. All of that happened not in the duration of the whole game. It happened in the final moments of the game. And that is, once again, where I think Lamar or where Patrick Mahomes has a ledge up on the competition this Sunday. Because when the game gets to that moment, it seems like Patrick Mahomes gets better. What Lamar is going to do in that moment remains to be seen.
So one more fun stat for this game. The Chiefs are 8-3 when Taylor Swift is in attendance. Just throwing that out there. They're 8-3. And I think, was she there for the Dolphins game? I forget.
I can't remember every game she was at, but I
forget.
Was the Dolphin? Are you talking about? I think she was at every playoff game.
Okay, so she's been at both so far. Okay. So, I mean, that's something in the favor of the Chiefs too. And I know, I feel like Taylor Swift is getting just shit on, for being at these games, for the NFL showing, cutting to her a lot. I don't really mind it, man. I don't know how you really feel about it. I know there's been some times where you're like, oh my God, not this again. Right. But I don't really mind it. I think she's just I think it's kind of cool to have a ton of whole new people in the NFL community who have never probably watched an NFL game before. What do you I think that's cool to me.
Yeah. I mean, and this is kind of how I feel about a lot of life. Normally I'll have a valid issue with something, but then you see these people that just clearly just hate her, and then it's like, okay, I'm not gonna change how I felt about a real issue just because I don't want to be categorized with those people. I don't care what anyone's doing. My real opinion is that I like that she's at the games. I like that she's bringing publicity to the sport. I don't like that the NFL is pandering to her fans. I don't like that they have to swing the camera to her every 5 seconds. Those are the things that I don't like, because to me, it just, she's a sideshow. And it's not fair for her. She's come out and spoken out about, I don't want to be the sideshow at the game. I'm just here to support Travis and the media. It's like the same reason I fucking hate the paparazzi. They just can't leave people the fuck alone. They are so just set on being all up in everybody's business. And to me, like, I dislike that just as much as Taylor dislikes it. And I don't like that the NFL, there was that Monday night game that the Chiefs played, and they had to throw in like, oh, look at, here's a Taylor Swift sign. And then the first question is like, which one of these people is less likely to date Taylor Swift? And it's like, okay, like we are here to watch football. We can add in, like, we can sprinkle Taylor in there, but I don't like when the NFL like tries to make that the focal point. To me, as a person that has loved football my entire life, of course, I'm here to watch football, and anything that I'm like a jealous boyfriend, you know. I don't want to see the attention going in other places. And like I said, I wanted to see Eminem on camera for the Detroit game, but I don't want to see him every 5 minutes. I just want to see him a couple times, you know, maybe in the beginning, maybe around halftime. I say tops 3 times. With the Taylor Swift, dude, we got our ticker going up to 11, 12. And it's like, to me, it's just annoying that the NFL, they're not even like discreet about it. Like, have a little bit of balance. Like, okay, we'll throw her in. Now we'll give it some time. Like, the production is just like, any chance they get, there's a camera on her the entire game. That is what I don't like. But I do not associate with people that have such a problem with it, that they come off as like people that hate women or anything like that. Like, I saw a post today that was like, if you don't have a problem with Jason Kelce shirtless chugging a beer and you have a problem with Taylor Swift, you just hate women. I don't like any of these generalizations. Like, I think what people don't like, so because, you know,
that's so like you said, it's so like, if you don't like this, that means you hate this. And it's like, what? No, like, come on. And I just think it's fun in general. Jason Kelce going shirtless, chugging a beer
awesome.
while like Patrick Mahomes' dad is there, while you got Taylor Swift and Brittany Mahomes in the background, just like fucking swag surfing. You got Donna Kelce sitting. I'm like, dude, this is just entertainment. Like, it really has kind of become that, right? Like, it has really just become entertainment. And I get it, dude. I get it. Like, I enjoy the part where like millions, and I mean probably millions of new people are coming in because they're Swifties, right? I enjoy that part.
See, I'm not a fan. I don't care about that. Like, to me, I don't care if the NFL grows as a brand. I have no interest.
Yeah, no, but it is kind of cool to like. I remember there was the podcast I listened to. They were talking about how like Swifties on Twitter were talking about like, what's a touchback during that touchback of the Chiefs or whatever. And I just think that's like, I'm like, I was fucking there too. I don't know. Like, I don't know. It is interesting to me how something like that happens because of like someone who was never attached to football, and then all of a sudden, whoosh, all these people come in. You know, it's interesting.
And the last thing I'll say about it, because I think this is such a great point that I hope that this segment reaches very far and wide. There's countless examples of how media, strictly like things I've seen on X, Facebook, Instagram, like, we just always have to be fighting about something, it seems like. And you can really see how much we've changed as people when you look at Jessica Simpson. They did the same thing to Jessica Simpson.
True.
Nobody freaked out about that. Now here we are over a decade later, and we have to bitch about everything. Like, at the end of the day, I'm not mad enough about any of this. Like, even if they pander to her the whole game, I would never make a post about it. Whatever. Like, it's not that big of a deal. It's just kind of like I said, I don't really have a common interest in the NFL growing as a brand. I wish that they focused on the people that have been supporting them this entire time. And I don't think that that's exclusive from showing Taylor Swift. I think they can both exist at the same time. But don't get so obsessed with, oh, we could get 100 million new viewers if we made 30% of this about her. She doesn't even want that. So, we shouldn't either, in my opinion. Like, let the woman just enjoy a football game, show her a couple times. I understand she's so high status that you got to do a couple more than a couple, but somewhere along the line, you got to draw a line and say, this is an AFC Championship game. Like, this is the second biggest game of the season. And there's no sideshow that should be taking a spotlight that Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes and the whole entire team, they deserve to be in the spotlight. That's their moment to shine. I don't want to see anybody take it, no matter who it is. Von Miller, Peyton Manning. This is their moment, and I want it to be about them.
And you know what Roger Goodell's saying, though, when he saw those jersey prices go up for Kelsey? He said, hey, must be the money.
Did he really? The prices went up?
No, the prices didn't go up. The sales went up. Like
okay.
Yeah, when Swift was shown, dude, Swift is fucking rated. Like Tom Grossi rates YouTube channels. They rated the NFLshop.com and got Kelsey motherfucking jerseys. And Roger Goodell and all the NFL, all the CEOs and stuff were like, let's go. It's money, baby.
Yeah. And it's always easy to say, oh, if I were in this position, that I wouldn't do that. And it's like, really? If you were a marketing director for the NFL getting paid $500,000 salary a year, and like, okay, sure. You literally have no idea what it's like to be in their position. So that's kind of where I stand with this. Like, I'm not even going to judge too harshly because, I like to think that, no, come on, like integrity, but come on, the NFL is a business and they operate like a business, and there's certain things that they're going to do that are business decisions and they have nothing to do with football. And that just comes with the NFL. And if you don't like that, then welcome, because this has been going on for a long time.
But you guys all know damn well we're still gonna have a Taylor Swift counter.
Oh, absolutely.
Still gonna have a Taylor Swift.
Absolutely.
But yes, Kyle, I've got the Ravens. You've got the Chiefs. When it all comes down to it, you've got the away team. I've got the home team. Just have to wait for Sunday. And all right, you ready to move on to number 2? Let's do it.
All right, our second game is going to be a good one. We have a matchup that has been anticipated for a very long time. I'm talking about the Detroit Lions going to San Francisco. Rick, I think they're going to pack. Fortitude.
No.
I think they're going to pack grit. I think they're going to pack toughness. And let's look at this Dan Campbell Lions team for a second, because I think we've talked a lot about the 49ers because they were, I think, top 3 favorite to win the Super Bowl going in. The Lions' whole thing was like, are they going to be able to get to the playoffs? So I already think the Lions have achieved the expectations that were set out for them. Of course, the fan base is never going to be satisfied. No one is ever satisfied when you're this close. But the Lions, to me, have proven a lot in the last couple of weeks. And we talked about how good Jahmyr Gibbs has been. Multiple touchdowns, a ton of yards. I think that this Lions team, and the spread was at 7, dude. Like, the 49ers were 7-point favorites. And I saw that and I said, how? What? Like, how is it 7? And
how the fuck?
Yeah. And I felt like, this Lions team's been a little bit disrespected with that opening spread. Now, with that said, the 49ers not having their best game definitely played into my surprise of the spread, because the 49ers easily could have gotten beat by the Packers, in which case the Lions would have been hosting. But instead, now they have to travel. But the 49ers are coming off, I would even call it a lackluster game. Like, there was nothing in that game where you were like, oh, watch out for the Niners, dude.
Yeah.
And yet everybody feels that way, it seems like. you look around and people are saying, I have no doubt that the 49ers win this game. And it almost makes me question, like, wait a second, how come? Is there something that I'm missing? Because I'm telling you, I like this Lions team. I like them a lot. I think they're going to travel. I think they're going to travel well to this game. And while the 49ers are having a bit of an identity crisis, I think the Lions could capitalize. And the other key thing is Brock Purdy did not look good last week. He went on that final drive. And, what we said about, if he lost that game, they would have been like, oh, it's time to move off Brock Purdy. People would have been out to get him if he lost that game based on the way he played. If he would have played better and lost, I don't think that would have been the case. But the way he played, if he would have lost, it would have been a shit show. Instead, I look at the news throughout the week, and most of the headlines are the Brock Purdy slander needs to stop. I get that. I do, because Brock Purdy was called a system quarterback, and I don't think he was getting enough credit for what he was actually doing. But like I said, and I feel this way about almost everything in life, it's just a lot of overreactions. Let's just call a spade a spade. Brock Purdy's not a system quarterback. He's having a ton of success, but he's not playing great football these last couple of weeks. And we now have to predict him to hopefully be better. I guess that's the only way to put it. Like, hopefully a different Brock Purdy shows up. And if the same Brock Purdy shows up, I don't like the 49ers' chances to win this game. I think the Lions are going to run the football really well. Sam Laporta's been amazing. Amon-Ra St. Brown, you can lock him in for a 100-yard game. Jared Goff's been to a Super Bowl. The defense flies around. Like, they're playing like they are still trying to answer that question that was proposed 2 years ago on Hard Knocks. Who are we? Yeah. And they have been writing the story. I don't think it's done being written yet, but for the 49ers, last year, losing the way they lost in an NFC Championship game, we know Kyle Shanahan's been, 4 of the last 5 years been in an NFC Championship game. So the 49ers definitely have the experience. They've been there, and man, there would be nothing more heartbreaking to that fan base for them to get there again just to fall short, especially in front of their own crowd at home. So I do think that kind of urgency will create a better product from the 49ers, but I'm just wondering if it's going to be enough to get them over the Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, David Montgomery, this squad, the heart and soul of Detroit. Rick, they're going to the Super Bowl. They're going to the Super Bowl. The Detroit Lions will go into San Francisco. I got both road teams winning this week.
Wow.
And we will have a rematch of the very first game of the season. Lions, Chiefs. Little did we know it would also be the last game. The Lions won the last matchup. We'll see what happens. But I got the Lions getting a gritty, knee-biting type victory. I think there's going to be blood. I think there's going to be fights. I think they're going to Dan Campbell's going to come out. He's going to run the football down their fucking throat, dude. He is going to Penei Sewell, that offensive line, the best offensive line remaining. And they're going to win in the trenches. And that is what this team's all about. He said the identity of our team is going to be a reflection of the identity of our city. We're tough. And that is really what you're seeing. And it makes sense to me. Like Florida, I ran track in Florida, like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and that type of offense, like that's very Florida. Yeah. The Lions are going to win this game by playing the identity of the city, which they will be representing. And I think it's a really special moment and something that we don't see all the time. But I think that it's been a long, long wait. And it's unfortunate for the 49ers, but somebody's got to be disappointed. And I think the Lions end up representing the NFC in the Super Bowl.
Just absolute craziness from Kyle right there. All right, just calling the Lions to the Super Bowl. Not like they, haven't been in the playoffs in a long time, haven't hosted a game in 30 years. He said Lions to the goddamn Super Bowl. We're going game 1 of the 23 season is going to be the last game of the 23 season. All right. All right, Kyle, you're gonna continue to hate me because we have got different winners in each game. I've got the 49ers, and look, you talked about Brock Purdy and the type of game that he had last week, right? Against the Green Bay Packers.
I just wanted to say I wouldn't be upset if the 49ers won. Like, just to throw that out.
Yeah.
To me, this is the opposite of the AFC. This is kind of a win-win. I would be happy for Brock and Kyle Shanahan. I love the 49ers. I actually hate that one of these teams has to lose. I just wanted to say that.
Oops, sorry. Got
you're good.
Okay. I agreed with you, right, during our recap episode about the way Brock Purdy played against the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers were the better team. They really were. They were the better team last week. But Brock Purdy's fourth quarter drive, man, that's exactly what Brock Purdy needs to do in this game against the Lions, because you said it. The Lions are coming into this game with plenty of emotion, plenty of heart, the city on their back, grit, breaking, their own franchise records for playoff games, hosting playoff games, blah, 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 blah. We talked about Dan Campbell. He's on the 0-16 team when that happened. Like, there's so much going for Detroit that, why not? Why not Detroit, right? Like, it's always that question about the team who's like always like the lovable losers, right? Why not us? This is the year type shit. And I know that. I'm a Cubs fan, so I know what that is like. But Purdy is going up against the 31st ranked passing defense. Not even talking about the rushing defense, because the Lions rush defense was second in the league. Only second, I think, to the Bears. The Bears ran the ball well and they stopped so the Lions were second, but they are bottom. I mean, basically last in passing yards per game. And we talked about Brock Purdy and I've said it before, he got MVP consideration, earlier towards later of the season. And we talked about it for a reason, because you take him out of this offense. Not every quarterback can do this. They just can't. Sam Darnold had a pretty decent game last week when they rested all their starters, but that just goes to show you that this offense isn't just like plug and play. You throw in fucking Justin Fields, you throw in Russell Wilson, you throw in Baker Mayfield, you throw in and in the Kyle Shanahan system, every quarterback's going to have the same success and they'll be MVPs. No, man, it does take a certain type of quarterback to do this. He showed this last year getting to the NFC Championship, and he's going to do it, I think, in this game in the NFC Championship. He's going up against one of the worst passing defenses in the league, man, and I think he's going to have a ton of success.
And the Lions are going against one of the worst rushing defenses in the league.
They
have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery.
Yeah.
So it might be one of those where Brock Purdy's only had one series and the whole first quarter is over.
And yeah, exactly. But you can also look at that on the flip side and be like, the Lions run out their own clock, able to score because Jared Goff is having a ton of problems with this defense on the other side in the San Francisco defense. They've got 48 sacks on the year. They have here, I had the stats. Hold on. Damn it, I had it. Now I feel like an idiot. Top 3 units and rushing yards per game, actually. So they don't have one of the worst ones. They actually have a pretty top defense for the 49ers. Only 17.5 points per game allowed. That defense came up clutch last week against Green Bay by getting that game-ending interception. So
terrible. It was a terrible throw.
Absolutely. It was across his body. It was over the middle.
There's no Packers in the area.
No, and it was triple covered, probably.
Yeah, it was awful.
It was a bad throw, but regardless, Greenlaw, second interception of the game, he's having a hell of a postseason so far, right? You still come up with those plays, because we saw the Packers drop 2 interceptions that were in their hands. We talked about the opportunities you have and what you can do with those opportunities. The Packers could not come up with those turnovers. The 49ers did. And I don't think they're going to let any opportunities like that slip through their fingers like the Packers defense did. I think this defense is just a monster overall. Joey Bosa, oh my God, I always forget his name. Other than not Greenlaw, the other linebacker, Fred Warner.
Patrick Willis.
No, not Patrick. Hall of Famer, but not him. Fred Warner, like, you got a ton of guys on the defense. You got a ton of guys on the offense. And I feel like that's what we've been saying, pretty much season long about the 49ers. And there were some games, there in the middle of the season or earlier in the season where we're like, oh man, they look like shit. And then they get blown out by the Ravens. Right? Because now you start to question it. And kind of like what Crafty said, I don't think that the Niners have 100% recovered from that Ravens shellacking. And you could kind of see that when Brock Purdy came out to play against the Packers. There was something like that, right? Like, you saw a little bit of like, what is going on? You got dropped passes, you got overthrown passes. He just didn't look good. And really, I think the thing that's going to kind of tie it all together for the 49ers is going to be CMC. 98 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. He had 7 catches, only for 30 yards. Not amazing, but not terrible. But that just goes to show you that CMC is not just running the ball. He is all over the field. He can catch it. He can run it. He can score touchdowns. He can paint your front porch. He could fucking drive your kids to school. He could clean your house. He could do it all, man. CMC is the best running back. You've said it. He's the best running back in the league. And so I'm taking the 49ers to win this one. And Kyle, I don't know if you're going to believe my score, but I've got them winning 21-20. And the Niners finally get to the Super Bowl under Kyle Shanahan. But I have to give credit to the Lions, man. They're 6-3 on the road this year. They're 6-3 on the road. Jared Goff in these last 2 games has played basically as perfect as you can play at quarterback. 564 pass yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 52 of 70 completions and attempts. Like, what else do you want from this guy? Jared Goff is proving that in the playoffs, he's going to play extremely well and do anything he can, maybe not take shots downfield, as much as he probably would like to or he should, but he's going to give you a perfect game, and he's going to give you enough where the defense can step up at points, where the rushing game can step up at points. You got to give him credit, but I do believe the 49ers under Kyle Shanahan finally get to the Super Bowl, and it's with Brock Purdy at quarterback. It's with CMC at running back. It's with Debo possibly back. You get Debo back, man. The Lions love to blitz their defensive backs, their DBs, maybe some safeties too. If you got Debo out there with Brandon Ayuk, with George Kittle, they're going to have a tough time trying to blitz with one of these guys getting open. One of them is going to get open if you're blitzing a DB with your front 4 and possibly another linebacker. One of these guys is going to get open. I think Brock Purdy, with the offensive line he has, is going to be able to have enough time to be able to complete it for a first down, maybe even more if that does become the case for the Lions. 49ers win, 49ers to the Super Bowl, Kyle.
Oh man. I think you're missing the key reason that I'm not taking the 49ers.
Dan Campbell.
Debo Samuel.
Debo
Is
he not playing?
I mean, so he might not, which to me makes the game an official toss-up. If Debo plays, I do lean more towards the 49ers, but how much is he going to be able to play is still up for debate. And the thing is he suffered the same shoulder, a hairline fracture, earlier in the season. That's why he missed week 7 and 8. This is the same shoulder. Yeah. So week 7 and 8, the Niners lost both of those games to the Vikings and Bengals. Brock Purdy scored 4 touchdowns in those 2 games, but passed for 4 touchdowns, but they scored 17 total points in both of those games. And it's really weird when you think about it. Every time the 49ers lost a game and offensively they only scored 17 points, the starting quarterback for the other team was out for the season. They lost to the Bengals, only scored 17. Joe Burrow out for the season. They lost to the Vikings, only scored 17. Kirk Cousins out for the season. Now that doesn't really mean much. It's just a fun thing to bring up. But in those games, let's forget about those games because we saw how bad the 49ers looked without Debo. Mm-hmm. But on Saturday's game, okay, he passed for 252 yards without Debo. But here's the thing, 116 of those yards came in yards after catch. Mm-hmm. So the air yards that would have been needed for the Niners to win, like the probability when you, this is all analytics, but when you added in the air yards that Brock Purdy was throwing, they had like a 1.6 chance of winning that game. This 49ers team even playing right now is literally just a product of the Packers falling apart. And I hate to do that, but it's true. Like, that was a terrible pick at the end of the game, and that was a stupid pick that led them to a field goal without even getting a first down after the pick. There's a lot about this 49ers team that falls apart when Deebo Samuel's not in the football game. And you're gonna be potentially missing him. And then even if he does play, what if he takes one shot to the shoulder and he's out? If Deebo Samuel's not in this game, it's not like the 49ers are this really great team and they'll bounce back. Not if the common denominator's not back. If Deebo Samuel doesn't come back, then the 49ers aren't coming back. He's that important to the team. So with his status up in the air right now, Kyle Shanahan said he's doing better, but he declined to say if he would play or not. Purdy's going to need to use George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk even more in the game plan than they did on Saturday if they want to have a chance to win. But without Deebo, and it's just insane because sometimes you just don't know how valuable a player is until he's not there. Especially in the 49ers case where you look around and you're like, this is the most talented roster. What's the big deal? It's just one guy. Mm-hmm. I don't have the answer for that, but the stats tell you it's a huge deal for Brock Purdy to be without that guy. So if you're telling me that, let's say he doesn't play, I expect the 49ers to look like they did against Green Bay. That's my expectations coming into the game. And that team is the team that I think the Lions could beat. Now, when we've seen the 49ers hitting on all cylinders, of course, I will not be shocked if that team's playing. The 49ers are most likely going to win. When they're playing at their best, they are unstoppable, it seems like. But just like last year, losing Brock Purdy, this year, if it's going to be Deebo that maybe doesn't go, I think once again, you're going to be wondering why this 49ers team doesn't look great. The evidence has been here all season that we should come to expect this from the 49ers when they're missing that guy. So I don't know if he's going to play. Fingers crossed if you're a 49ers fan, but with that injury up in the air and what I've seen, that's why I'm leaning Lions here.
So I will say, like, that's all 100% fair because we saw in real time on this podcast while we were streaming that game how just dysfunctional it looked without Deebo in the offense. Now, taking into account last week, Brock Purdy so far in his year and a half as a starter, he's 4-2 without Deebo. He's got over 1,300 yards passing. Yes, he's got a shitty touchdown or interception ratio. I think he's like 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, whatever. And he's got about 100 quarterback rating. Like, he's still fine, I think. I just think a lot of that dysfunction that happened last week, and we had talked about it during the recap, is like the rhythm was off with Kittle, with Ayuk, with everyone. Yeah. You saw a lot of drops. You saw a lot of this stuff happen in real time. And, they
didn't have their mojo.
They just didn't have the mojo too. And a lot of people, because kind of what you said, that was a shitty pick by Love too, right? It was just a bad throw. And Brock Purdy was doing the same exact thing. Yes, there were drops, but then the very next play or the play before, he overthrew George Kittle. How do you overthrow George fucking Kittle on a pass that has 7 air yards? Like, how do you do that, right? Like, and like I said, it's just real-time shit. But his record with Debo is favorable. And how the rhythm for the offense is, that's, I think, is going to be the most important part. Because if you have no Debo, you do lose a very, very good threat, a very good offensive threat, downfield threat, whatever. But I think the most important part, and this is why we always say you can't just throw anyone into Kyle Shanahan's offense. It's like that rhythm, that timing, that mojo that you called it, right? Bang, bang, Niner gang, that type of shit. Is that going to be present? Will it be present without Debo? And if it isn't, then yes, the Lions should be able to take care of this game pretty handily. And if it is there, I think the Lions are going to struggle. And again, I'm taking the Niners when you're taking the Lions. But yeah, I just think, like, with or without Debo, should it matter? What really does matter, the very core of this offense for the 49ers, is can that rhythm continue? Can it be even half as better than last week? You're looking at a Niners win, in my opinion.
The only thing that I think probably a lot of fans that don't like get this deep into football, they could easily miss this. Deebo Samuel has insane speed, and he's used as a running back all, like, very, very I would say not a ton, but maybe 4 or 5 carries a game.
He used to be, remember that whole thing?
Yeah. And that's why he's like, I want to be paid more. So Deebo Samuel, he averaged, and before I even tell you this, you know why you were saying it looks like the mojo was off? It's because Deebo Samuel is that piece where if you take him away, these wide receivers don't have the same type of separation. He is a major piece. Like when Brock Purdy first came in, and they would run plays where, you fake it to CMC, you fake the reverse to Debo, and then right over the middle, touchdown. When you take one of those pieces away, all of a sudden it has a ripple effect of the other wide receivers and the separation that they have. So that to me is a huge deal. You're missing, like, the mojo is not Brock Purdy. The mojo is having all of the weapons on the field at the same time. That's what produces Brock Purdy's success in a lot of ways. And it's not taking anything away from him. It's just what was great about Brock Purdy, because Trey Lance, remember, he was playing in the preseason a couple years ago, and they asked Kyle Shanahan, how did he do? And he said, I don't know. All he did was run. And people were like, wow, Kyle Shanahan's actually pissed off because
he was doomed.
Yeah, because imagine you dial up the perfect play and your quarterback wants to take off and run, right? It's like, no, you need to trust the play. The thing is Brock Purdy was that guy. He was the guy that was actually going to bring Kyle Shanahan's playbook to its fullest form because he trusted the process the entire time. But in that process heavily involves Deebo Samuel being on the field in so many plays. I mean, whether he's a decoy or the number 1 or number 2 read on a play, he is making a huge impact. So he's a guy that makes a huge impact, even if he doesn't get the ball thrown to him. That decoy effect is huge, and that's what creates separation. That's what creates confusion on the defense. That's what makes your linebackers, run over to try to maybe stop him as a runner, and then the middle's wide open. Like, you're missing all of that. So who are you going to throw in to do that? You can't just throw in another player and hope that he can do what Deebo can, because Deebo's like a Tyreek Hill type talent. There's not a replacement for him. You saw like how much Jalen Waddle and Tyreek both being on the field at the same time. Look at Tua's passer rating, his win record, his yards when one of them's out of the game. All of a sudden, teams can shift their focus. They can lock people down. All of a sudden, Brock Purdy's like, why isn't the middle of the field wide open? Why aren't these plays working? Now he's trying to throw balls and it gets inaccurate. And we're like, where's the mojo? They're not in that rhythm because that rhythm can't exist without Deebo. So that's the only thing I wanted to add to it, is that Deebo Samuel is not just like, they're missing T. Higgins, but they have Jamar Chase. Like, the way Kyle Shanahan creates his plays is not so much for the talent to just, like, you see how Mike McDaniels, Tyreek just kind of runs and then he comes back to the football and does whatever he wants. They're kind of just, it's like the Wild West, right? Just
it's like Travis Kelce and Mahomes.
Yeah, well, it's like, just exactly, like, just use your skill, use your talents to feel the space, right? Kyle Shanahan isn't about feeling anything. He is like, you will be here. You will be crossing this guy at this moment. You take that away and the dominoes fall. And that's just one thing. It's a bigger deal because of the kind of coach Kyle Shanahan is. That's why it's even if he wasn't like that, losing Deebo is a big deal, but it's almost a critical thing based on the way Kyle Shanahan has his role kind of impact the entire play in its entirety.
I could totally agree with all that too. And you make a good point in terms of, like, Shanahan's offense is, like how you said, pinpoint fucking accuracy, pinpoint timing, pinpoint this. Like, you have to be here. You have to be crossing this fucking guy and have these two guys do this while also looking down. I 100% agree. 100% agree. And Deebo does become a huge factor in that. I did want to bring up something too that I think, like, is more geared towards the Lions and really more Dan Campbell on the Lions. Dan Campbell on fourth downs, because I think this is going to be something crucial that happens in this game. There's going to be a fourth down that's going to come down to Dan Campbell decide. He's over 50% on his fourth down calls. He's about 52%, I think. His career. Yeah. So, given that information, Kyle, given, his kind of just like, bam, I'm fucking laying my dick down. I'm Dan Campbell. I'm the alpha.
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer.
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. That fucking nose is so red. Do you think in this game there will be a fourth down that can determine the game, whether it come in the second quarter, in the first, in the fourth, whatever point of time in game, that Dan Campbell should have gone for it or should have not gone for it? Do you think that's going to happen in this game, given his history with his fourth downs?
That's a tough one. On one side, I want to think that with the stakes as high as they will be, and the inexperience, that Dan Campbell will uncharacteristically be more conservative than we've seen.
Ooh.
On the other side, he's surprised us many, many times. It's a great question. I think you're going to see. Okay, I do think he's going to go for it on fourth down. I'm going to say twice in this game.
Oh, okay.
The way I see it is, I see him going for it in areas that aren't critical. So let's say you just crossed the 50, but it's a 55-yard field goal and it's 4th and 3. Of course, he's going for it every time.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to make a Brandon Staley kind of fourth down decision, like on our own 25, down 14, like, Yeah. He may go for 2 at some point in the game. But yeah, I hope I did not answer your question, but I think there'll be a couple times where they go for it and that'll kind of stay true. But I think it's going to be at an appropriate, area of the field where the analytics would back it up. And I think when the analytics say go for it, you can almost bet every time Dan Campbell is going to go for it. And he doesn't know you don't have to see the analytics. Like, if you've been around football your whole life, you can feel when the analytics would support your decision. Like, okay, it's a 57-yard field goal. We don't want to punt. We're averaging 5 yards a play, and it's 4th and 3. Yeah, clearly you don't need to know the analytics to know that it would probably be a good decision to go for it and continue the drive. Do any of those those decisions catch up with him? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah, because I was thinking about it too, because Shanahan he's more on the conservative side, right? Like Dan Campbell, he's going 50, you're 50-50 on 4th downs. Like, fuck it, why not? Right? Like it's a coin flip. I just think that, man, if this does come down to something like that at any point in the game, we're gonna look at that and be like, fuck, he should have gone for it there, or fuck, he should not have gone for it there. But I just hope that, because we've talked about it before, even during the season, there was a game, and I forgot who it was against, that the Lions kind of just like gave it away because Dan Campbell was like, go for it on 4th down, go for it on 4th down, turnover on downs, turnover on downs, turnover on downs, like he was over in that game on 4th down. And I remember we talked about that game and we're like, is he just pulling a Staley or something? Like, what's he doing? Right. And
the Ravens game,
was it the Ravens game? I think they lost big.
They were down like 28. And I think, I mean, I agree with that game to just keep going for it, because the last thing you want to see is you're down 28 in the second quarter and your coach is just, oh, we're going to punt the football. Like he definitely is like, I know that we are going to need to convert a couple 4th downs to win this game. Like we can't have a 3-and-out. We're down 4 possessions. Like we need and I think sometimes like when it doesn't work out, it's like, oh, you hit the panic button too early.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see that scenario. I don't think he's going to be, reckless or anything like that, because I don't think he's going to be down enough points where he would want to go for it, in his own territory, stuff like that.
Yeah. So now on the opposite side, we've seen Shanahan in like these big moments to crumble coaching wise. Like we've talked about him. We've talked about Mike McCarthy. When Mike McCarthy was going up against LaFleur and the Packers, we're like, coach, because you got the conservative guy in Kyle Shanahan, and sometimes he crumbles when pressure hits, and you got the fucking wild gunslinger with Dan Campbell on the other side. Do you think there's some point, in this game where Kyle Shanahan makes like a boneheaded Mike McCarthy type of move coaching wise, or even just like Todd Bowles did last week, where he doesn't take a timeout, where he runs the clock down, because I know that pisses you off to no end, dude. Like the clock management, if you were to rank things that piss Kyle off, clock management and head coaches is number 1. So do you think Kyle Shanahan's going to do like some stupid move like that?
Well, I hate when teams kind of stray away from the identity that got him in these big games. That's what pisses me off. Like if you're super conservative all year, like Bill Belichick, he doesn't really go for it much.
Yeah.
And you're in an NFC Championship, like that doesn't bother me as much. Like they're sticking to their identity, but I don't like to see anybody change in these big games. And Kyle Shanahan is literally an example of that. I mean, he gets into these games and like he'll have, let's say, a minute 45 seconds left and 3 timeouts. The Lions just scored. He's got the ball at the 25 and he runs it with CMC, and they're huddling up and standing around, and it's going down 130, 120, 115. And everyone's like, are we running the clock out on ourselves? And Kyle Shanahan's like, yeah, in case we don't get the first down, we don't want to give them the ball back. And I said it a million times, that's playing to lose. And they're thinking
football.
Yeah, exactly. Like the offense that they have, they should be like 145, 3 timeouts. There's no reason we can't get a touchdown. We don't want the field goal. Let's get in. Instead, you see them running the clock out in case they don't convert on 3rd down. Like, I don't only think that's just terrible coaching. I don't only think that the crowd deserves better, but I also think that it instills into your players that you're not confident in them. And that kind of reinforces, especially when you go into halftime like that, which is where in the last 2 years we've seen him do this, going into halftime. That's really when he pulls this bullshit out of his ass, and everyone's sitting around like, okay, so we're gonna just act like we don't possess the power to score in 2 minutes with 3 timeouts. So yeah, I'm wondering if he's going to learn from it, because the crowd definitely let him know the last 2 times how they felt about that. But at the end of the day, like, we don't know if Kyle Shanahan gives a shit what anyone thinks. Like, he's going to do it his way or the highway. And yeah, I really hope we don't see that, because that is, and you know what? I don't think we will. And I'll tell you why.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we will. And it's because the guy on the other side, he's not going to let that clock run down to 1:15. There will be no standoff. The moment that Kyle Shanahan bitches out, Dan Campbell's going to call a timeout and call him on his bluff. Be like, let's do it. Let's go. Or you don't trust your offense? Well, I trust my defense and the offense, and we want enough time to score. You can dick around and you know, to play that game, but we're here to win. And I think that's going to kind of change the way Kyle Shanahan has to be in this game. I don't know if it's going to be, you know, his free will as much as the guy on the other sideline kind of forcing him into it.
Yeah, because, you know, as I was thinking about that, I was like, damn, both of these guys, like they fuck around and then they find out, right? Like, I just want to know who's going to do the fucking around, who's going to find out, because this can really be one of those like wrinkles in the game that you don't necessarily like take into consideration on a winner or a loser, but we see it almost every game in the NFL, preseason, regular season, postseason, Super Bowl. Like, we see some shit like this that happens every time. And if it's not the coaches and it's not the players, it's the refs. So I feel like when I was like thinking about this, I'm like, this has got to be something that has to be taken into consideration, because it's a huge part of the game. So, you know, I think Dan Campbell will do a little bit of like a 4th down, like a 50-50 coin toss type shit. And I think Kyle Shanahan's going to be good for one of those like really weird calls, really weird, like, oh, it's the second quarter and you get the ball back in the third. Yeah, we're just going to run the clock down. And, you know, we have 1:20 left or something like you said, right? And it's like, dude, you got 2 timeouts, 1:20. Like, why not? You know, you got CMC. You're at the 40-yard line. You're on 40. Why the fuck not? But I just thought that was interesting to bring up, because we do have like 2 coaches that do their own sort of weird shit that it just happens every week.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll mention about the whole Debo thing is Brock Purdy with a healthy Debo Samuel just this season, okay? The 49ers went 12-1 and averaged 32.3 points per game. That's a shit ton. Purdy has had a completion rate of 71.1% in those games, and a touchdown to interception ratio of 28 TDs, 6 interceptions. Okay, so those literally are like best quarterback in the league stats.
Game changing.
Over 32 points a game, 12-1, you know, completing 71% of your throws with almost 30 touchdown passes. That is insane. Yeah. But in the 4 Purdy games where Debo Samuel played 10 snaps or fewer this year, the 49ers went 1-3, with last week's win over Green Bay being the only win, and posted just 18 points per game.
Oof.
Purdy had a 61 completion percentage, touchdown to interception ratio without Debo Samuel, 4 touchdowns, 5 picks. Okay, that is, to me, all you need to know about everything that I was saying about how it is so much more than just Debo not being there. It's everything. You got literally 32 points with him on the field, almost 40 almost 30 touchdowns. You're completing you throw every 4 passes, you complete 3. And then without him, like, the only win last week, not even 19 points per game. This is a totally totally different team without him out there, and the stats back it up.
So, God, I had a question and I forgot what it was. Yep, I forgot it. I lost it. God damn it.
Lions?
What's up?
You're switching your pick?
Oh, hell no, dude. 49. Bang, bang, Niner gang, baby. Let's go. Oh, God. Well, those were our championship Sunday picks, everybody. Kyle is going with the Chiefs. I'm going with the Ravens.
Oh, that was the other one, the Browns. They scored 17 points, and the Browns lost Sean Watson for the year.
Yeah.
17 points. They lost
Vikings
for the year. 17 points lost Joe Burrow for the year. That's crazy.
That's insane. Yeah, Kyle's going with the Lions. I'm going with the 49ers. We will see what happens on Championship Sunday. Make sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Please drop that like. And of course, where can you catch all of those? Well, both of those games, Kyle. Where can you catch both of those games, Kyle?
You can find them right here, actually, on the Only Football podcast. We will be streaming those games, going for 2 different teams in 2 different games, 2 different moments, 2 different guys.
And this isn't rare. Kyle and I think in the playoffs, I think we disagree the most in the playoffs. Like last year, between the Eagles and the Chiefs, in the AFC Championship game, the 49ers, the Eagles, I had the Eagles, he had the 49ers, and the Chiefs. Who did they beat in the AFC Championship?
The Chiefs last year?
Yeah.
Bengals.
Oh, you're right. It was the Bengals. Yeah, because we had a huge segment on that the week prior.
Hit out of bounds, set up a field goal.
Yeah, and we talked about that like prior to the game. So this isn't weird for us to disagree on these games, especially when it comes down to like the last 3, 4, 5 games, whatever it is. But definitely, like Kyle said, you could catch that all right here on the Only Football podcast. We're going to be streaming the games, and we're going to have a little extra surprise for you guys. If you guys were here with us last year during this playoffs, and you might kind of know what's in store, but Kyle and I are going to have some prepared, as well as for the Super Bowl when we do stream it. The Super Bowl is probably going to be the cherry on top, Kyle. You agree?
It is. And, the NFL's scripted the Super Bowl all year. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, honestly, the safest bet is to go with what the NFL has been planning this whole year.
Yep.
But I'm what do you call it? Go against the grin. I'm when you going against the grid.
Oh, are you going against the grit? Are you going against Dan Campbell?
No, I'm going with the grit.
Okay.
You're going against the grit. But yeah, sorry. I'm ready to move off this game, but man, the Lions offense is so good. Like
they're good.
You look at Brock Purdy and these struggles, 12, 13, what was it, 17 points a game? Mm-hmm. Like they need that 32 points a game to play with the Lions. And I don't think they're going to get there. This might not be as close as a game as people think. You know what's weird about this game is everybody's got the 49ers. Everybody. Yeah. I've checked 5 different sites. I can't find the Lions pick in there. And I just... it's weird. It's like I feel like I'm totally missing something, and I don't know if the Lions are just underrated at this point. I don't know how they beat the Rams, they beat the Bucks. They're the real deal, man, and they got one more chance to prove it.
We will see that on Sunday. Like Kyle said, one more chance to prove it. Kyle, it is time.
Top 5, no debating. Top 5.
Top 5, Kyle?
Top 5.
There's only 4 teams left, but we got to keep the train rolling. We're going with our top 5, technically top 4 teams left in the playoffs. Kyle and I are going to rank them right here, right now. Let me just get my my notes up so I know exactly who Kyle has. Hold on. Let me just write this down. Oh my God. Stop looking at me, Kyle. Jesus Christ.
This is gonna be a wild top 5.
Is it now? Why is that? Why do you say that?
I just have a feeling.
I just have a feeling. All right. So 4 teams left. We have got the Lions, we've got the 49ers, we've got the Ravens, and of course, we've got the Chiefs to end it all off. So, Kyle, I'm going to let you go first on this one. Who do you have in your top 5, starting at number 4?
Okay, so this is just right now.
Yes.
Okay. This pains me.
Oh no.
Okay, just one thing. I want to preface with this.
No prefacing.
You can't. I'm not going to set up the top 5 in a way where it's like, okay, but you can't have that team over that team because that team won. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in this game of football that the better team always wins. It's as simple as that. So with that said, at number 4, I have the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, all right.
I got the Chiefs at 4. They've been playing really good ball, and I almost want to move them above the other team, but the other team just has a longer track history of winning and dominating all season long, where the Chiefs are just kind of getting hot late in the season. And that, yeah, I'm gonna go with the Kansas City Chiefs as the 4th best remaining team right now. But like I said, better team doesn't always win.
That's true. All right. My number 4, Kyle's going to fucking hate this. I've got the Lions at number 4.
That is bullshit. No way.
I told y'all Kyle was going to hate this. Shit. The Lions at number 4. Why do I have the Lions at number 4? Kyle, why do I have the Lions at number 4, Kyle? Why do
Please, you tell.
4? Close games in these playoffs. The defense has given up stupid amount of yards to Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is having a stellar season, yes, but you're giving up a ridiculous amount of yards through the air to Matthew Stafford and Baker Mayfield. These are first overall pick quarterbacks who are not on their same teams anymore, but come on, like you're giving up, that defense is giving up a ton. They come up clutch at the end, picking off Baker against Stafford as well. I think that, I don't know if they where's that damn dildo? I don't know if they picked him off, but either way, like they come up clutch. But if they let it slip, if they for some reason that first half gets a little bit out of hand, I don't think this defense can recover, and that's why I have the Lions at 4.
Yeah, the 49ers played in a close game last week too. And by the way, Lions looked much better. Okay, that's why this segment's awesome. It's borderline toxic. At number 3, I have the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh my God.
I have the 49ers. They're not playing good football right now. Like, I got to judge these teams. 3 of the teams are playing really well right now. There are 3 teams playing good football right now, and the 49ers aren't one of them. Yet they are a remaining football team, and that's just a testament to how good CMC is, how good Kyle Shanahan, how good these weapons are. If this were any other team performing at this level, they would have been bounced in the wild card round. But because they were the number 1 seed, respectively, deservingly so, that they earned the position that they're in, where they don't have to play a wild card game. And then when they finally did play, they looked like dog shit. So they land at number 3. There's teams playing better football right now.
All right. I mean, it's bullshit that they're number 3, but okay. My number 3 is also the 49ers. I agree with everything Kyle just said.
What?
Kyle just said I agree with him. Purdy was overthrowing the ball. The rhythm was off on that 49ers offense. And Kyle mentioned CMC. I really think at the end of the day, what saved him was the defense. Greenlaw, Fred Warner, all Joey Bosa, like all these guys getting pressure on Jordan Love in that final drive, making him throw across his body, getting that interception by Greenlaw. They came up clutch, but they really did save the offense from losing that game. Again, I agree the Green Bay Packers played the better game, but in the fourth quarter on the last drive, the 49ers defense played the better drive. So 49ers at 3.
All right. At number 2, I got the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh my God.
The Ravens are playing great ball right now. Great ball.
You're high.
And Lamar Jackson's playing at an MVP level. They do have a bit of inexperience going into this game with Lamar Jackson in a conference championship.
Yeah.
They run the football really well. They're a complete team. I'm not putting them at 12. Like, they're number 2. That is like putting them in the Super Bowl, which I'm not. But they have the talent to do it if they can. If Lamar Jackson can actually prove that the moment's not too big for him on Sunday. Ravens, their game to lose. I got them at number 2.
All right, my number 2 is the Chiefs. I've got the Chiefs at number 2. They went into Miami. No, I'm sorry, not in Miami. Sorry, Buffalo. With that game, everyone was picking the Bills. Everyone was saying Josh Allen's finally going to get over this hump in the Chiefs. What did the Chiefs do, man? They went into Buffalo, and you got Chris Jones, and you got Patrick Mahomes getting pelted with ice, and they're going, let's go. We win. What the, like they took that disrespect. Maybe not disrespect, but that doubt that always seems to creep up on the Chiefs every single year, ever since they won their second Super Bowl, ever since they got to their like second, third AFC Championship game or so. And there's always that doubt. And they took that and they said, fuck your doubt. We're going to come into Buffalo. We're going to go 3-0 versus the Bills, 4-0, whatever it was now. And we're going to go on to the AFC Championship game again. So the Chiefs flip the switch, and that's why they're my number 2 team.
So you think the AFC team would win the Super Bowl no matter who the NFC has? Like, you think both AFC teams are better than the NFC?
Right now, yeah.
Okay. I know, I was just wondering.
Because you say you had the Ravens at number 2. You're like, that's basically putting them in the Super Bowl, but they're not.
You know what I mean? No, that's why I was asking.
Okay.
Joking. Okay.
Bitch.
At number 1, I have the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, they answered that question. They know who they are. They have an identity. They have the best, maybe. Oh, man, we got ourselves a really good final 3 tight ends, right? You got Kelsey, Kittle, and Laporta. And Laporta's emerging as a top 4 tight end in the league. Best two-headed monster in the backfield. 49ers have CMC, but the Lions have 2 guys. And Jahmyr Gibbs has just somehow gotten better in the postseason. This is the best remaining offensive line. Jared Goff's been to the Super Bowl. He's looked great in these playoff games. He is a sniper with the football. He's throwing beautiful passes. They're not asking him to do too much, but Ben Johnson, they do have this Lions team throwing the football.
Yeah.
So you got a team that can beat you, right? For instance, the 49ers without Debo, they don't look like a serious downfield threat. And it's a lot like on, Kittle and CMC, where the Lions literally can take whatever the defense gives and find a way to execute. you do have the defensive worries about the Lions,
Mhm.
but we had the defensive worries about the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and they ended up winning that. And especially in a offensive forward NFL, it turns out it's shifting a little bit, I think, where
Mhm.
I still think defenses wins championships, but if you have an offense as good as the Lions, you can compensate for certain areas. I still think Aiden Hutchinson is going to emerge
Savage.
as one of the faces of the NFL, like a Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
Campbell's doing well. Like, they still have people that are flying around. They tackle well. They don't miss on their tackles. They get beat. Like, they get beat. People get behind them. The cornerbacks aren't spectacular, but in the running game, the defense can rise to the occasion. They have speed. I actually like this defense. This is probably as bad as the defense could be on paper, that I actually don't think it translates to what I'm seeing on Sundays.
Mhm.
Like, when I watch the Lions defense play, I see a lot of heart out there on the field. I see a lot of wrapping up. I see a lot of tackles on first contact. So, and then as a punt returner, Reynolds is a really good punt returner. So
Yeah.
I think every phase of the game, but specifically this offense, is what's going to be the reason that the Lions end up at number one. They just have way too much talent.
Could not have said it better myself, Kyle. But
yeah.
I did say it better at number 4, though. My number 1 is going to be the Ravens. They're the only team left. The Ravens are killing it. And look, you said tight ends, man. Like, don't dismiss my boy Isaiah Likely over there in Baltimore.
I'm not.
You know,
he's emerging, though. He's not there yet.
He is emerging. You're right. And I mean, obviously, with the absence of Mark Andrews, it's tough for Isaiah Likely to be in those names, because even Laporte, he's a fucking rookie, but he made such an impact in Detroit. But that's why I got the Ravens number 1, man, because Isaiah Likely, even, you know, with all the weapons that Lamar does have, the rushing attack that he has, he's still up there in like terms of like, yeah, get Isaiah Likely the ball. You got Nelson Aguilar, you got fucking Bateman, you got OBJ, who isn't really making a difference in this offense. But I think that's almost kind of crazy to say. Like, you have OBJ in your lineup and he's not making an impact, and you're still winning games by 30 points or whatever it was. And I'm not saying OBJ is some amazing wide receiver 1 anymore, right? Like, he is. Kyle just keeps fucking regenerating footballs. But he's still someone that you could throw the ball to downfield that is going to make plays, right? His last Super Bowl with the Rams, you know, he was a guy on that team. He was the reason that they won that Super Bowl. And I still think he could be that in Baltimore. Talk about Lamar, favorite for the MVP. Talk about that rushing attack, man. Gus Edwards, Hill, Lamar. And we haven't even mentioned Dalvin Cook throughout the entire thing. Playoff Dalvin. He didn't go crazy last game, but I think he's got a really good opportunity to does go out for this game to score touchdowns.
Don't forget about Melvin Gordon.
Is Melvin Gordon on the Ravens?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my god.
They put him in when they were blowing out the Texans, and I remember saying on the stream, I was like, oh no, you guys don't understand what's out there right now. Like, we had and he fumbled the ball the next play, like immediately. And they took him back out of the game. They're like, oh my god, you're really that bad.
I was going to say, this one's for Kyle. Don't give him the ball because he's going to fumble the fucking ball. Do not give him the ball. And that's just the offense, man. The defense, Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, Marlon Humphreys, all these guys on defense are absolute dogs. You know, they're killers. You saw the I think it was Roquan Smith mic'd up against the Texans, and he was just hitting people, man. He was there. He was all over the field. Really good linebackers. But Roquan Smith, dog, and going to be one of those captains on that Ravens defense. That's why the Ravens are number 1 for me, baby boy.
All right. Well, that is our top five.
Top Top 5, no debating. Top 5, top 5, top 5.
All right, Kyle. Let's move on to some very interesting, important news across the league.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. Just kidding. You guys thought you were getting out of here that quick? Think again. We got more news to bring to you right now. All right, Rick.
Let's go into the coaching carousel. Tyler said, Kyle, go to bed. You're drunk.
I
Clearly.
haven't drank this entire month.
All water.
Water only, baby. Join the club. Join the club.
But let's talk about the things that have happened this week. We talked a little bit about it last week, and I think on Tuesday's episode as well. But since then, Jim Harbaugh to the LA Chargers. Jim Harbaugh was negotiating on both sides, Michigan and the NCAA, and also for interviewing for teams, mostly the Chargers and the NFL. But he finally decided, you know what? Who's got it better than us? Nobody. But you know what I'd really love is a fucking Super Bowl. And I think I can do it with the LA Chargers. He finalizes a deal. I don't think any of the details of that deal have come out yet, at least to my knowledge, but he will be.
Deal. The money hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
It's a 6-year contract.
So 6-year contract for Jim Harbaugh. And I think just from the jump, you're giving him all 6 years, no matter what. Like, unless he absolutely tanks that entire team in year 2, you're giving him all 6 years to develop that team, to go out, a playoff ready team, really, if you ask anyone around the league, especially Chargers fans, to go out and win a Super Bowl, man. I think that's exactly what they saw when they signed him to those 6 years. And I think that the Bears missed out. God damn it, the Bears missed out. But anyway, regardless of all that, the Chargers are finally having the head coach that they want. 3-4 years of Staley was enough for them to say, get the fuck out of here. That loss to the Raiders was embarrassing. Kyle, what were your initial thoughts? I know you went live for that breaking news, but give us a little of that taste, a little of that live stream on what you had on that signing.
The first thing I thought was shit. That's not good. I mean, you look at the Raiders, right? We saw that they had success with Antonio Pierce, and we were like, it makes. I think Bill even liked it on Twitter. I said it makes perfect sense that the Raiders would have signed Antonio Pierce. That's why I'm shocked that they did it.
Yeah,
which is like a huge insult to the Raiders, and then. Jim Harbaugh interviewing with the Chargers. Yeah, of course, he's going to do his due diligence and interview. And he interviewed with the Vikings 2 years ago. And apparently he actually wanted that job. And it was the Vikings front office. Florio has the whole backstory on this that kind of didn't come to terms because of power and stuff like that. Last year, the Broncos were looking for him. The ownership group flew to Michigan. They flew to Ann Arbor to interview him. I'm talking about Walmart people. They don't just fly for anybody. You know what I mean? Like, you come to us. They're not used to being the ones catering. You got people with a net worth of $50 billion jumping on a flight to go see this guy. Why? Because he's a winner. Everything that this guy touches works out. The 49ers got rid of him. They tried to say that it was mutual, and then we found out that the 49ers fired him. It wasn't mutual at all. And that was a dumb decision by the 49ers. It was, looking back on it, they have Kyle Shanahan now, but imagine that they didn't get lucky with another head coach. That would have been a critical error. So Jim Harbaugh, just a little bit about him. In his time with Michigan, he was 89-25. His last 3 seasons, he was 40-3. He was in the Final Four the last 3 years, 3 straight Big Ten titles, AP Coach of the Year in the 2023 National Champions. This guy just works wherever he goes, and he can get the job done. Now, looking at the other teams, like Atlanta was getting ready to interview him, and the Chargers were really set on trying to get a contract done and they were able to do it. So he doesn't even have to catch that flight. He didn't want Atlanta to even have, a conversation with him. And they knew that this is what they needed. Now for the Chargers, I think that this is a huge, huge hire. I said yesterday they got awesome uniforms. They got the dopest stadium in the NFL. They're in Los Angeles. They have a franchise quarterback. They have Derwin James and your boy on the D line, like Khalil Mack. Like they have, and then Joey Bosa. They have so much talent, and they've been wildly underperforming. Even at corner, they have a good corner. I couldn't remember his name last night, but he's a junior. His father played. He had 3 picks in the game against
I know you're talking about Porter. No, he's on the Steelers.
No, yeah.
I know you're talking about.
They have way too much talent to not succeed. So you look at a Jim Harbaugh guy. This would have worked if he went to Atlanta. This would have worked if he went to the Panthers. Like anywhere he went, he was going to turn the franchise around. Now he went to the one team that is already set up for success. Now we're going to find out in the next coming days what the dynamics of the power. We know Jim's a guy that likes to have a ton of control. The GM, I think Jim's going to have a huge say in who the GM is because they fired their GM and their head coach. This is a total clean house. And if you had to bring in one guy to get that franchise back on their feet, it's Jim Harbaugh. And the one thing is Jim doesn't have those offenses where you throw for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdown passes, but they will run the football really well. They'll utilize multiple tight ends, and they will utilize Justin Herbert. It's just not going to be like, hey, we brought in, this offensive guru that's going to make you guys score 40 points a game. I don't think that's what you're getting, but you're going to get a much better defensive team that probably is going to hold opponents to 20 points or less per game under Harbaugh. And then like the reason it sucks, man, is because it pretty much just guarantees that the Chargers will be in the playoffs for at least for the next 6 years. And that's just the way it is. And the timing works out perfect because we know that he's been flirting with the NFL for the couple of years. He's been wanting to make that jump, but there was some unfinished business at the college football level. He gets the national championship. That was the last thing he had to check off his list. And now he wants to sit at the big boy table with his brother who's got a ring and the other successful coaches in the family. He wants to, in his own right, earn a ring. And after seeing what he did for Michigan, I don't think there's any reason to believe that Harbaugh won't get a Super Bowl ring with the Chargers. And it sucks because one thing is we could always count on is the Chargers charging. Anytime that there's a word that sums up an entire feeling that goes back decades, you don't just need a new coach. You need a new identity. And that is what a coach like Jim Harbaugh brings. He doesn't just bring his talents, his skills, toughness, discipline. He's going to bring all that. But with all that comes a whole new idea. This is going to be an entirely different Chargers team. That term chargering, you can throw it away. It's useless now. Jim Harbaugh is the head coach of the Chargers.
And I just want to point out this season, especially with what just happened with Jim Harbaugh signing with the Chargers, and Broncos fans that Kyle, that you and I have experienced this entire time we've been on is good. Fuck.
I got you.
Did you not hear anything I just said?
No, you're frozen.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I got you now.
Okay. So I was just saying this Jim Harbaugh signing to be the head coach of the Chargers just continues the onslaught of bad luck that happens to us Bears and Broncos fans, Kyle, since you and I started this podcast, because Jordan Love is good and he's a Packer. Now we have the Packers have their next quarterback for the next 15 years. AFC West, the Chargers no longer charging because of Jim Harbaugh, and you just got Sean Payton. You're about to get rid of Russ Wilson. You're about to build up this team. You got Walmart money. It's just like, why can't we win, Kyle? Why can we not win?
And that's what's funny is when Russ first got traded from Seattle, we were like, the AFC West is by far the best division in football.
Yes.
Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, and Patrick Mahomes. And now all three of these teams is, you could make an argument, better because now we have Sean Payton. But now you add Jim Harbaugh, and it's like what we thought was good couple years ago. If you would have said, like, in a couple years, Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payton, and Andy Reid will be three AFC West coaches. And it's like, who are the quarterbacks? Justin Herbert, Patrick. Like, this is insane. And I think all of those years of thinking, the AFC West is going to be the best division, it feels a little bit like the little boy that cried wolf because it gets repeated now. Like, oh, it's going to be this year with Sean Payton. But I really do think that we're headed towards a season where the AFC West emerges as the hardest division in the NFL.
Totally agree. Let's move on to a couple other coach signings. Jim Harbaugh obviously being the best one. The other recent one, the Panthers hired Dave Canales, the OC for the Bucks. The Panthers have hired him as the head coach. There's a little bit of inexperience on his side. He was the Baker Mayfield's coach, obviously, this past year, and he kind of, really regenerated, kind of like turned over that entire offense. And you bring in Baker Mayfield, and you're almost like, this is a big.
All right. I think Rick's trying to refresh his thing right now, but as he was trying to say, he definitely revamped Baker Mayfield, and I think you could make an argument that Baker is really had this talent in him the whole time. He just needed a place where he could showcase his talents again. So I think it might be a little bit of an overreach. Morgan said that he's excited to be working alongside Dave again. His background coaching multiple position groups has given him a great understanding of what it takes to build a successful team. His infectious personality resonates with the players and everyone who comes in contact with him. I'm confident that will translate to the field. It is expected that Canales will be the team's play caller and that he and Morgan will report directly to Tepper, according to the team's announcement. Morgan was with the Seattle Seahawks from 2010 to 2017, working in a pro personnel, while Canales spent 2010 through 2022 in the Emerald City as an offensive assistant. So this kind of goes along with the theme. We're seeing a lot of fresh blood emerging for the Carolina Panthers. This definitely isn't one of those hires where like I said, I think a couple days ago or no, it was 2 episodes ago. So maybe a week ago, I was mentioning that any coaching spot that gets filled and that candidate hasn't had previous failures, the organization generally is going to receive it well. There's a lot of optimism in a new type of coach taking a bigger role. So we'll see how that works out. But I've been a little surprised by some of these hirings. I think that there's maybe some other teams or other coaches I would have been going after a little bit harder. But I guess with the Tampa Bay success, the only thing is, like I said, if that success had a lot to do with what's been inside of Baker this entire time, then it might not be what it appears. There is hold on, there was a couple more hires I was going to mention. So back to Atlanta, the Falcons hire Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris. And I think this is going to be a good one. So I'm really, really for this one. It's a familiar sideline because he was with Atlanta. So Morris all last season was the Rams defensive coordinator, and he's been over there the last 3 years. We've seen a lot of the Rams coaches get positions in other places. Like we had Evero last year. No, not last year. The year before, Evero was the defensive coordinator, and then he ends up. I don't even think he was the defensive coordinator. I think he was just on the defensive side of the ball, and then Denver got him as a defensive coordinator, and then Raheem Morris took his spot. And really, this is just a product of good coaching. Sean McVay is one of the best coaches in the league, and you see he cannot keep a coordinator, man. Morris will become the first Black full-time head coach in the organization's history. Morris was an interim head coach, as was Emmett Thomas. This is, I think, what we're seeing with these defensive players that have a lot of success coaching, getting head coaching jobs. Gerard Mayo, Raheem Morris, D'Amico Ryans. And I think D'Amico Ryan's success has kind of catapulted this whole movement. I'm not talking about Black coaches getting hired. I'm talking about coaches jumping up to head coach pretty fast. And I think that's just because of the success that we saw D'Amico have. So he did have a statement that came out. I am overjoyed for the opportunity for my family and I to return to Atlanta as the Falcons head coach. Morris said in a statement issued through the team, "We know from firsthand experience what a first-class organization Atlanta is and what this means to its city and its fans. I'm incredibly appreciative of Arthur Blank for his leadership and for this entire organization for putting trust in me to help lead this team. I can't thank the Rams organization enough for the experience and opportunity with the team," and went on to thank specific people and then said the entire staff for the Rams. So he said the Rams were a first-class organization all around. We loved our time in LA, loved the fans, and we know the Rams will continue to have a very bright future. And once again, we've seen a lot of coaches get pulled from the Rams into higher positions, and I think that's just a product of Sean McVay not only just being a great head coach, but also being intentional about raising up new coaches instead of going with the Bill O'Briens and the Vic Fangio. Like there's been an emphasis, if you look at Sean McVay's track history, on trying to bring new faces up. And that's just a testament to his leadership and his discipleship as the head coach for the Rams.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And sorry for the connectivity issues there, everybody.
You went away?
Wait, you weren't here?
You weren't here?
Yeah, just having just a couple of issues there, but yeah. So I caught a little bit at the end there with Raheem Morris. Kyle, what do you think of the overall pick? You think it's a good one? Do you think it's going to work out for the Falcons? They were looking at Belichick. Like Belichick is still out there, but they go with Raheem Morris, another defensive-minded guy.
Yeah, I like it. I think if you're really settling on two defensive coaches, I think you got to lean towards energy. Mm-hmm. Of course, Atlanta has a very large Black population as well. So I think you look at that. I know not in a way where it's like you get the job because of that or you don't, you're not. But I just think, just like Dan Campbell kind of leading Detroit, like sometimes like the city, man, like I think that's big for the city to have a Black head coach. I think they really do appreciate it. So I think if it was a toss up, that they maybe would lean that way, but I don't think that's why he got the job. So don't twist it in any way. I think what we've seen from DeMeco Ryans and the success that he's had has had a ripple effect on a lot of ex-players getting these head coaching positions offered to them, maybe at a faster rate than we've been used to. And I think it's going to be a good fit, and I actually do think that it's going to work out. Uh-oh. I didn't know. I thought but yeah, we'll see if Rick gets back in here. Oh, he just sent me a message. His internet's going a little bit funky right now, but the owner did come out and say that this is a historic day for the Atlanta Falcons. After a comprehensive search, we are thrilled to welcome Raheem Morris back to Atlanta as the team's new head coach. With 26 years of experience in the NFL, including the last 3 in an outstanding organization that has won our league's championship in that time, Raheem emerged from a field of excellent candidates and is the right leader to take our team into the future. His time in LA has given him an enhanced perspective on everything from personnel, team operations, game planning, working with outstanding offensive staffs. So right now he's just going through his credentials and why he deserves to be the head coach. And he said, I believe his leadership skills have grown and his understanding of what it takes to have a highly collaborative one-team culture are now at a much higher level. Now, Raheem Morris is only 47 years old. That's pretty young for a head coach. And he was with the Rams for that Super Bowl winning defense as its coordinator in 2021. He also has 59 games under his belt as an NFL head coach, 17-31 with the Buccaneers, 4-7 with the Falcons. As I didn't know that Raheem Morris was already a head coach. He must have been interim head coach for 2 firings. Don't quote me on that, but I don't remember him being like a full-time head coach. Maybe he was with the Bucs, 17-31. That's like 3 seasons. I totally missed the boat on this one. But I guess that's because maybe we didn't have the podcast then and I was less into the details. But as Morris heads to Atlanta, that also confirms Bill Belichick will not be coaching in the NFC South. And moving on to Bill Belichick, that's an interesting ripple effect because Bill Belichick is now trying to find a spot to fit in. And you wonder, okay, is it going to be the Commanders? Because the Commanders haven't named anybody, and they just hired former NBA executive Bob Myers. We talked about that. He was coaching Golden State, and the only other team is Seattle. And we mentioned how Seattle would only move on from Pete Carroll if there was a candidate they really loved. Remains to be seen if that guy's Bill Belichick, but Bill Belichick's a couple hires away from not even having a job opportunity this year, which is crazy. I did predict he would take a year off, so I think that would probably be the move, and maybe he does some media stuff for a year like Sean Payton did in the off year. But those are some of the huge and then here's the other thing. No indication Bill Belichick is running for 2 remaining head coaching openings. So that is a really big news. Bill Belichick's 2024 head coaching prospects might have concluded on Thursday with Raheem Morris getting the job. There's no indication Belichick is in the running for the Seahawks or Commanders opening. That was reported by NFL insider Mike Garofalo. He said the Seahawks and Commanders stand as the last 2 openings, which we just talked about. Belichick, who parted ways with the Patriots following 24 years to create one of those openings, interviewed twice with the Falcons, but didn't end up getting the job. So bearing a massive shift with the Commanders or Seahawks, 2024 is now set to become the first season this century with Belichick not being a head coach. That's massive news. So that is all we got for you guys today. Rick's internet was pissing him off, but luckily we were able to get through our predictions because we can always bring the news later. But the predictions had to be said. Me and Rick, as a recap, we disagreed on everything. He's got Ravens, I got Chiefs, he's got Niners, and I have the Dan Campbell Lions. Who will be right? Who will be wrong? You can find out right here. Please give this video a like if you guys enjoyed this content. As always, you guys are the freaking best. Thank you for helping us continue to grow. We both still have jobs, but hopefully one day in the future, this channel can make the proper strides for us to be able to do this full time and then bring even more content. And you guys are making it all possible. So thank you, Bill Crafty, for being in here in the comments. We had little E that was in for a little bit. He called me mainstream. I don't know if that's a compliment or not. I would enjoy being mainstream media if that was a possibility, but without selling out, of course. And we had Angel in here as well. So thank you guys for coming in. Oh yeah, one more quick shout out, because we did have a Chiefs fan in here. He came in and said Chiefs Nation. Here he is, the Hurricane. And he also said, imagine a world with the Lions in the Super Bowl. That is the world that I have planned. We will see who's right and who's wrong in a couple of days. Reminder, there's no football on Saturday. The NFC and AFC Conference Championships will both be on Sunday, and we will be here streaming them both. If you guys are just tuning in right now, go ahead and rewind this thing back to the beginning so you guys can see who we got. As always, subscribe if you enjoy the content. And me and Rick will see you in just a couple days. Until then, see ya!